Hi everyone, thank you for coming. I'm Michelle, Director of the Teaching and Learning Services team in IT. We support Brightspace and kind of everything ed tech really for you all. So thank you for coming out for this seminar. I wanted to introduce Amanda Jensen over here, who's new. She's going to be managing our professional development program for our team and for IT going forward. So we'll be having a lot of seminars, webinars, and other really interesting stuff going on this year. So she'll give you a bit more information about that and then introduce Stan, our speaker today.
Thank you, Michelle. Well, good afternoon, morning-ish. I just wanted to say thank you for coming today. We're going to be exploring the use of ChatGPT for effective teaching and learning. This is hosted by the TLS team, which you heard from Michelle, our director. We have Lisa and Janie, who are working on our online team, and we have Kevin, who is dabbling in between both worlds. And then we also have our AV team. We have Katie Balbula, who is helping with our AV portion of the program. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Teaching and Learning Services team. If you've never met us, we're called the TLS team. We support the use of technology to enhance learning for the students. We believe our first service is human service to both you as faculty and students. So when there are time periods where you're frustrated or time periods where you're curious, you can reach out to our team and we will help you explore technology together as best as possible. We strive to understand where you're coming from and be helpful in advancing the use of technology across the campus. That is why we have invited Stan here today to talk about an emerging technology most of us have heard about called ChatGPT. Stan is currently the Director of Instructional Technology and Design at Dean College in Massachusetts. He helps faculty and students get to the next level of technology use. He has over 30 years of experience in instructional technologist and as a trainer. He has a doctorate in education through the University of Wyoming, and his most recent book is he is the author of 80 Ways to Use ChatGPT in the Classroom, using AI to enhance teaching and learning. Please give a warm welcome to Stan.
Well, thank you ever so much. ChatGPT, how many have already started experimenting with ChatGPT? Okay, roughly about half, give or take. How many are absolutely terrified what the heck this new technology will do? Okay, a couple, all right. Thanks for being honest. ChatGPT is definitely a disruptor. Once upon a time, there was this gentleman who was lamenting about the fact that students were going to stop remembering, stop understanding, stop being able to comprehend, and because of a new technology, and that technology was writing, and that philosopher was Plato. So he was lamenting what was going on. We have survived all kinds of new disruptive technologies, from computers being put on our desk, to the interwebs, to Google mining all your information. We have now AI, and AI is not new. We've been using AI actually for quite a number of years. It's just gotten to the point where it is a disruptor, okay? It requires us to rethink how we do things. So as an educator, it's kind of important that you figure out how that you're going to use AI. Biggest concern is that your students are just going to use ChatGPT to write the essays. And it can, and it will. It can answer questions, it does. They've tested it on tests that instructors have created and ran it through ChatGPT, and it'll get about a B level grade, right? So it does quite well. It has an IQ of 147. Mensa ran it through its paces, okay? But it is a tool. If used correctly, can actually enhance learning. But it's understanding that it is a tool to do that. So I'm sure on your mind is, how can we use this? The initial gut reaction, which comes from our basic instincts, is to kind of block things, right? And this comes back from the days when we were in a cave and we walked out of the cave and looking for saber-toothed tigers. It's like our threats are up, right? This is disruptive. This is a threat. How do we protect against it? Okay. But once we come to understand it, we can move forward. And so today, my role is to talk about ChatGPT, what it is, and how we can really use it in our classroom to get to the next level. So let's start with what is ChatGPT and how do we use it? So first of all, what is ChatGPT? ChatGPT is built on GPT-3, at least that's the current version. It is a generative, pre-trained transformer. And what this really means, starting with the pre-trained piece, is that it has been fed a lot of information. And it will generate information based on what it was trained on. So if you feed it a prompt, it will respond to that prompt. It'll look at everything in your prompt and it will start putting things together in a natural language and feed it back to you. It will transform that information. So it's built on ChatGPT-3. GPT-2 has been out there. The model we have right now, GPT-3, that's the level that we're working with. Here in the late spring, early summer, GPT-4 is coming out. And 4 is about 100 times more powerful than GPT-3. Okay, so if what you have played with, experienced, were in awe, right, buckle up, right? Because the next one is taking you to the next level. And they're just going to continue doing this. As I said, it uses natural language in order to do this. You can actually have a conversation. And some of the things that I'm going to show you is actually participating in that conversation, that you feed one prompt. From there, you ask for a derivative, and it'll provide a derivative. It'll continue the conversation. I use it to practice, my fledgling understanding of Dutch. So I'll actually have a conversation in Dutch with ChatGPT, and it will respond, and I'll respond back, and it'll continue back and forth, and we'll have a conversation. It is built on 45 terabytes of information. So to kind of put it in perspective, they estimate that the human brain is 1.25 terabytes of capacity, right? And so here we're dealing with about 45 times, a little under, but human brains working together, right? Exploiting that. Or billions of tokens, and a token is a single word or a small phrase, and it's built upon that information. It does have limitations, and these are limitations that you can exploit in your classroom if you have concerns about students using ChatGPT. So first one is, it's not connected to the internet. It does not have, it's not connected in gathering information from the internet. So if you post something today, it doesn't know. Its information is current to about 2021. I'm confident the next version will have more current information, but it's always behind. It's not working on what is happening in real time. So if examples you're using in your class reference current events, that's hard to feed into ChatGPT. It'll just tell you, I don't know. Sorry, my information's good back to 2021, okay? It also doesn't look at your notes, right? If you're teaching, you're lecturing, there's something that you say in class, it doesn't know that, right? So that information, it just would not know that information. It also has biases, right? And I think this is important when we are teaching students about critical thinking, right? That ChatGPT was fed information. A human chose what information was fed into ChatGPT. And one of the criticisms we have dealing with literature, got a lot of old white guys, right? And so some voices are not carried over there. This could be a concern depending on the topic that you're working with, right? But it's also an opportunity when something comes out in ChatGPT to explore it deeper, more critically, that you're able to identify, what's wrong, what's missing here, what voices are missing from this information. And it's also, it can give you a lot of facts, a lot of factual information, but it's technology, right? You ever use GPS and find yourself in the middle of a lake, right? Not always perfect, not always accurate, and doesn't understand how the world works. So, a little bit about what ChatGPT is, why you cannot disregard it. Okay? We are working with students to prepare them for a world that's to be, right? We're using information from the past in order to prepare them to be successful in the future. Artificial intelligence is not going to go anywhere. There is litigation about what's being fed into artificial intelligence, how it got its information. But I can assure you that the United States is not going to give up on our artificial intelligence and let another country develop it. Okay? It's just not going to happen. It is going to get more and more powerful. It's going to become more and more prevalent. It will change jobs as we know it. And it will continue to do that. It is a force multiplier. I have been only using it for a short time, but I'm finding myself using it every day. I go in there for simple tasks that would suck up a half hour of my time and get a jump start by asking ChatGPT to, let's just move me forward 5 steps before I start working with it, okay? And it will do that. Businesses, I listen to a number of podcasts dealing with productivity, dealing with business, selling books, writing books, across the huge spectrum. All of them are talking about ChatGPT and how they are using it in a business sense to move their businesses forward. So if we do not introduce our students to ChatGPT, we are not adequately, in my mind, preparing them for the future that they're going to go into, where these business owners are going to request that they use it, because certainly you can sift through all this data and spend 6-7 hours doing it, or I could have this on my desk in much shorter time, okay? So, it just simply saves time. And we're going to start looking at examples on how you can use it as educators to save yourself some time, first of all, but also provide ideas on how you can use it for your students. So, really quickly talk about how to use ChatGPT as an educator. But I want to talk about some key things that is useful as you're playing with this. First of all, and this goes back to your students, you need foundational knowledge. In order to create an adequate prompt, whether we're dealing with agriculture, dealing with criminal justice, building assessments, there is foundational knowledge you need to have in order to build a good prompt to get the information you want. And then, once you get that information, you need foundational knowledge to assess that information to say if it's accurate. Okay? This is the why when you go back to your students and say, here is why, 1, I would like you to use ChatGPT, or why I don't want you to use it in this assignment. right? Spell it out. Very often it's like, here's the assignment, right? But dig a little deeper and explain why. Why, as an expert in your profession, I want you to do it this specific way. Yes, you could do it, and you could do it quickly with ChatGPT. But here is why it's essential that you don't for this moment. Or, here's why I want you to specifically go to ChatGPT and use it as a start for your assignment, okay? But that has to be built into that transparent assignment design, right? The purpose and the task and the ways of assessment, right? In that purpose at the top. You will find, or you may be building prompts that you're going to be using over and over and over again. Save those prompts, right? Even out in another sheet, right? So you can copy and paste them in, or you can save them in ChatGPT. The ones that you're just experimenting with and not worth saving, delete them, okay? That way you have a nice clean set of what you're going to work with. And use it as part of a conversation, right? The idea is to save you time. So once you start something, just continue on and start going forward. So, cross our fingers, right, to see if ChatGPT is working for us today. 50 million users. 50 million users is kind of a big number. They measure a lot of things that way. I guess the automobile, it took 75 years to hit 50 million users. Facebook took 2.5 years. Instagram, 7 months. ChatGPT, 2 months to get 50 million users. So they're still scaling. So let us see if ChatGPT is up and going and going to be nice to us. Let's see if I can beef this up. I have prepared some prompts as examples. And we're just going to feed them into ChatGPT and let it do its magic, because I think this is where you really get to understand how you could potentially use it. So, yes, ma'am.
A really good question came in from Candace, and it is, how does ChatGPT provide references to students? And if a student requests GPT to answer a question, does GPT also provide the references to which the answer is based on?
That has been my experience with that, not really good, right? It takes billions of artifacts. So it could probably give you some references, but it's pulling from billions of tokens to build that reference. So you would potentially have billions of citations for that particular prompt. So it creates original text every time and going from there. Not the answer you're looking for, I know, but I would give attribution, always give attribution to, I created this with ChatGPT. Right? In the back of my book, I said I had a co-writer, which I did. So, yes, ma'am.
Is there like a accepted library bibliographic citation for citing ChatGPT then? How do you cite it?
So I found an example from that was used for MLA, and this goes back into the day of ELIZA, right? When using ELIZA, which was a kind of an artificial natural language processor that you talk back and forth, you would ask questions, it would respond back. And there is an example I found showing how to cite particularly that, right? So giving attribution. That's probably the best place to start. So let me jump in here, so let me just start with something. Thinking as an educator, every once in a while you get tagged to do a new course, all right? You're gonna just like, hey, I want you to teach this course, right? We haven't taught this here yet. What do? Right? Do you just sit there with a blank piece of paper and start writing out your course. Most cases, what I have observed over my time working with faculty is they'll jump onto Google or they'll ask somebody, right? It's like, hey, have you taught this course before? Do you have a syllabus I can borrow, right? And I know we always provide attribution to that, right? That I'm using so-and-so's syllabus for my class. I know we do that. But this can give you a jump start on that. So I'm gonna copy this out, use ChatGPT to write a course description. Let me put that in there, Command plus. For an introduction to cybersecurity course. Hopefully you can see that a little bit. And it may be tired. Ooh, no, it's not. All right. And I've used this example a couple times, and each time it's different, right? It keeps making a little variation on that theme. Right? That may be a little verbose, right? Maybe I need to like knock it down to 200 words, right? They're having trouble seeing it? She's handling it. It's nothing I can do. Okay, so it rewrote it, condensed it a little bit, right? This is a great strategy to use. You know, you're getting ready to go into this meeting. They gave you 4 documents to read, right? All of them are too long, didn't read type documents, right? You can dump it into ChatGPT, say, hey, please give me an executive summary on this. Thank you, you know, and you have the essence and that you can walk in understanding what's going on. Let me reduce this to 8-week course outline because 16 weeks was just too long. So we're going to continue on with cybersecurity and create an 8-week course outline based on the material that we were providing, okay? So it'll break it down for you. And I encourage you to use this for things that you're working on, right? That could this get you one step further where you can devote your time and energy potentially in another area. Now, once again, it requires subject matter expertise in order to go in there and say, is this right or not? Okay? So if I was to turn that into somebody, right, that is a cybersecurity expert, right, they may be looking at me and say, you know, that's not 100, that's really good, but nah, I wouldn't do that, okay? Taking a piece from that, write module objectives for network security. So I'm just taking one small piece of that, and I'm going to write specific learning objectives that are dealing with network security. And I have shared some prompts in the book where you can actually take Bloom's taxonomy, you know, all the good action words from there, and use that as a starting prompt in order to build this. Provide classroom discussion questions. So I didn't tell it what. It already knows that I'm dealing with network security and attacks that are being faced. So, you know, I need some questions that I want to bring into my classroom. And this gives me some ideas that maybe I didn't initially think of. Create a classroom activity on how to protect a bank of computers from a network attack. So I need a classroom activity It will not exactly build the PowerPoint slide for you. However, it will create an outline telling you what bullets to put on it, what the title should be, what a recommended image is. So this is only dealing with text, so it doesn't do the imagery piece. But you can take those pieces, bring them to like Midjourney, which is an image AI, and put it in there, and it could create some images that are relative to what you're doing. So yeah, kind of, sort of. It has a tie-in to Discord, so Midjourney. There are other ones. Dolly is another one that you can generate images. I prefer Midjourney. I like the images just a little better. Activity rubric, write lecture notes. We're going to use the lecture notes a couple times, so I'm just going to copy that and let's just build some lecture notes on a particular topic. Go ahead.
My question is, as someone had previous said, you previously said that the data that they have for backed up is from like 2020 to 2021.
Up to 2021.
To 2021. How would you consider using this ChatGPT for, say, articles that may be during that time period? So if students had to, like, you had to translate a scientific article that is difficult for general students to read, how could you use ChatGPT for science translation?
I will, great question, thank you. I'll show you, right? So I'll kind of show you. And this kind of expands our research. Anyways, here is, before we go there, so I can move on from this. So writing lecture notes that you can have for those various things. We'll get back to the lecture notes in a little bit, but let me address this question. So I'm going to make it just even a little harder. I don't know what language this is, right? This is not my native language. I'm thinking Polish or Ukrainian, somewhere in that area. It's not my native language. But it was a research article. One of my professors, asked the library, hey, can you find us this article? We found the article. The title, the abstract were in English, but then the article was that. And so in testing ChatGPT, I just copied, a few of these paragraphs out. And my simple prompt is translate to English. And so I pop this in here. And it fed me back this information, right? So and we'll take this, and because this is scientific, but it's not really geeky scientific, right? That you have to be just an absolute expert to know. And let me redo it for another audience. So how about rewrite for 5th graders. Right, so it's going to take this information that I just translated or had translated. I didn't do it, trust me, I didn't do it. And this is, this is still kind of complex information, right? You have to be kind of an exercise science person to, I can understand quite a bit of it, but could I make it so 5th graders can understand it? And I think it did pretty good, right? So we could take those really complex science articles, copy, paste, say, could you explain for whatever grade age group, or non-specialist, whatever, and put it in there and have it go ahead and adjust the language, right? Because sometimes we have this wonderful research, but we need to explain it to a lay audience, right? But we're so locked up in our discipline that it's really hard to do that. But now you have, and I really want to consider that ChatGPT is a teaching assistant, right? One that you probably couldn't afford. Has lots of information at its disposal to be able to help with this, okay? And so that is an example, but thank you for that example. Let's,
We have a question over here.
They're getting into the middle on me.
Can this be used to recognize a bias and then tell you what that bias is?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't have the answer. I would experiment with it, right? Seriously, I would just go in, and if you know something that has a certain leaning, I will look at our political landscape, far left, far right, right? Does it have a certain bias in either direction? Put it in front of it and say, we'll do that for you, okay? She didn't put it back. All right. Let's see, lecture notes. Oh, hey, create a 15 slide presentation on lecture notes with image recommendations. All right. I knew I had that weaved in there somewhere. So this is going back to lecture notes that I referenced earlier in today's presentation, and going back and giving me ideas for slides, right? I did kind of an example on, how to translate it for like a 5th grade, so I'll bypass that. But I need to get a set of vocabulary words for my students and provide definitions, and those are based on my lecture notes that I've written. Yes?
Okay, I have 2 points. Okay, now it's going back to muscles. So are you integrating and going back and forth with ChatGPT between talking about the
Well, if that happens, I would probably
conversation.
reset it, because I have been using examples that are all these different fields. But if I was, and I could go back to.
But this is all in the same ChatGPT window. So you were mostly talking about cybersecurity,
Yep.
briefly switched to muscles. But
Yeah,
when you asked
because
it for,
I confused it, so.
But then also I noticed at the end of that set of slide suggestions, it said, remember to include relevant sources and citations in your presentation, but yet it didn't give you its sources. So it didn't help there.
No, but it left an opening for you to, I can go back and ask for
What are
certain
some
references and stuff, but I'll show you more examples as we're going on, right? It's,
Oh, I had a question too. Do you have any examples of where ChatGPT is wrong, or something you can pull up that says, "Oh yeah, this is clearly wrong"?
Yeah, when it gets into math, it gets into weights and measures and things like that, going from one to the other. It does not do well there. So it definitely does not do well. If there is a very narrow, right, you get into these articles or these arguments that happen through journal articles back and forth, right? That they're referencing somebody in literature, and you have this viewpoint and that viewpoint, right? Pretty soon, those authors of those articles have more prominence than the one that they're talking about. And so sometimes it will say, hey, so-and-so said this, when in fact, it may have been the original author, right? So once again, you have to have that foundational knowledge to be able to sift through it and say, is this, smell the common sense test, right? Throw the, right?
So as a specific example, I was misunderstanding which atom in a specific molecule would have different partial charges. And I asked it to tell me which atoms had the most positive partial charge, and it was wildly off.
Right.
But as an educator, you can know that.
Right.
And you can see that people are trying to cheat because they'll give you something that is wildly off.
Right. Okay. And I would honestly bring ChatGPT right into your classroom as another participant. Right? Use it as a participant. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is totally self-serving. Do people use this to do abstracts for their papers, and does it work?
Oh, yes, and yes.
Like, yeah, one place wants 200 words, one wants 300.
As an example, in preparing for this presentation, they asked me to write a description for the presentation. I thought ChatGPT did a fine job.
Oh. Oh, good to hear.
I said, this is what we're going to talk about. Can you make it really sound really nice? And it did. But yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Find something else that's fun.
I just wanted to ask, based on that last comment, so it's not connected to the internet, so it can't get current information, but can you input information for it to, because you were saying I told it what I was going to talk about, or she wants an abstract for a paper that obviously isn't published yet. So if in your question you put that information in and then asked for an abstract, it would process that information?
You could, yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely. I'll show you even another example that is relevant to what you're talking about that can help you in the classroom, okay? First, I'm going to go through this, right? This is, and we'll go to that example right after this, but this is a very important phrase that you can use in this, is acting as whatever, okay? Acting as a cooperative extension agent, right? An ag professor, a cybersecurity expert, right? Acting as. That is a useful phrase because it will reshape things based on that phrase. So here, sometimes ChatGPT, depending on where you're at on the day, it may fight back and say, I'm not ethically allowed to do that, okay? So if I want to know a role-playing script between a quid pro quo social engineering attacker and an employee, okay? It could look at this and say, I really don't want to show you how to do that because that could lead to ethical issues. But if I am a cybersecurity trainer and I'm using this as an example in my class, then it will be nice enough to go ahead and create a script for this quid pro quo social engineering attack. Okay. So you could build in your class role-playing exercises for different scenarios. How would you react to this, right? Some disciplines have that, and trying to find a script, right? You could build one. You can say, hey, I have these two characters, build me a script, and let's go.
Parameters and to limit it to like a 10-minute role play? Or?
Yep.
Okay. Because
Yep.
I could see this going on forever if you can.
It could, but ChatGPT, really tries to keep things pretty brief. Okay. You can make things more complicated, or continue adding to the conversation to kind of piece it together, and that's what I, kind of recommend. Okay, so there was an example. Yes. So I grabbed this essay. One of the things that you often have to do is grade essays, right? So I grabbed this essay from the interwebs. Somebody wrote a nice essay. And I basically put in, acting as a college English professor, review this essay and provide recommendations for improvement. So I just copied their essay, dropped it in here. Right? And it's just making recommendations. So now, of course, I'm going to read the essay and make my comments, but also I can get a second opinion, on that essay. Or actually, students could push their own essay in there and get some feedback on their essay. So one strategy you may want to consider is requiring that students use ChatGPT to initiate an essay. Have them open up a document, include the prompt that they wrote, include what ChatGPT created, turn on tracking, have them make that essay better, then run it through here and include the recommendation report from ChatGPT.
We've got several online questions, so I'm just going to run through them one at a time. One is, does ChatGPT, this is from Michael, does ChatGPT train from the prompts it's given? So if you feed it sensitive information to ask for a condensed version of an abstract, for example, will it have that information inform responses to other participants' future queries?
I can't answer. I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. The other question was from the College of Nursing. This is Thais, and I have a question, please. If I copy and paste a student essay, can ChatGPT find out if it was plagiarized and list the sources?
It does a good job of letting you know if this was written by a human or by artificial intelligence. I've asked that question, and it does a nice job for that. I haven't pushed it any further to say what percentage and where the information, but I think some follow-up questions may
So it may
help.
inform on AI versus human, but it's hard to say beyond that.
Hard to say because I haven't tested it.
Amanda from the library also noted that related to the references issue, there's been some discussions, and she put a link in the chat and the Q&A about how this ChatGPT may fabricate references, or it's a little bit iffy as to what they are. So there's some conversation going on online about maybe you just don't expect references if you use it. You say, I used AI, and you leave it at that. But
yeah, and once again, it's to just use it without verification, right? I think that's not. I would always ask, to go in and make sure that what you are providing is correct information. And by using ChatGPT, it depends on what you're doing, but if you are creating an article, it actually can cause more work to do this, right? It doesn't make it, I mean, yeah, it seems easy. I put in a prompt and here you go and rip it off, right? But to go in and fact check all that information to make sure it's accurate, yeah, that could be more work for a student than just doing their own work right up front, okay? So, you know, those are things to consider.
Yeah, I mean, just, I'm sorry, just imagining like the accessibility functionality of this alone, like being able to translate into multiple languages. Like think about like the applications of this for English as a second language student, like being able to interface with your curriculum instantaneously being translated in live time as they get it if you do it digitally. Like the applications just really go so far beyond anything that I think anybody can reasonably know at this point. And I'm curious, like, just as something that like came to me as we continue to talk about this is like our understanding of work and like what is work. Like, students are going to be using this. Teachers are going to be using this. Everybody's going to be using this. Who's using this right now? Like, exactly. So it's just going to be so pervasive so very, very quickly. And I'm just curious, like, what are the ethical applications of it? And what are the ethical implications of it? And it's like, can we even begin to I don't know, be able to fathom it? Because like we're gonna get hit. I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but the
No, you bring up absolutely wonderful points in this. And you know that I like the ethical piece that you talk about, right? That because I think that's really important in what we're doing. And that's why it's, you know, we're educating students to enter into this world to do functions that are here to better the world, right? But if they don't know if what they did is correct or not, that could have ramifications down the road, right? And that's why it's important, I think, to explain what's appropriate for this use of ChatGPT. I see it as a partner to develop ideas. It's wonderful for ideation, that I can go out and start putting in things, right? So sometimes I'm looking at a blank page and going, I gotta have this written by tomorrow, and I have no thoughts. And I can use this, you know, to generate keywords. I can use this to generate research ideas. I can do amazing things. But it's a partner here to say, okay, I don't understand this. Please explain. And it explains, right? But the idea of jumping in and for someone that's working in a new language, right? So here I am in Dutch, right? Hoi, mijn naam is Stan, hoe gaat het met jou? Hallo Stan, ik ben een computerprogrammer, dus ik heb geen emoties, right? But what would you like to know? Well, can we talk a little bit about culture? Of course we can. It knows culture, even in Dutch. What do I want to know? And I can start asking about famous artists, right? I can have a dialogue back and forth. Someone who is, you know, English is not their first language. It is a lot of work to compose something that is not your native language. It's a crazy amount of work to do that, plus try to understand the content. And sure, they have to know English to a certain level, but I'm still trying to figure out Dutch, and I know how hard that is.
So I guess my question is, what would you give to a person or a professor who might have not come today and learned about this? What kind of tips would you explain to them?
Thank you. No, it's about anything. It's about going and being educated on that particular tool, right? We have all kinds of tools, dealing with criminal justice, agriculture, pharmaceutical, right? There's tools in those disciplines you have to come to know. In the platform of education and learning, this is a tool. Go play with it, right? I would use it for yourself and then figure out how you can apply it for your students. All right, Michelle's gonna tell me about her question here. Whoops.
Amanda just came in online again and mentioned GPT-0, which has been developed to detect plagiarism generated by ChatGPT, but that stealth GPT was created to fly under that radar. And it just made me come back to, I love to point out to people who come to me and say, we need plagiarism and we need to stop this and that. And I'm like, it's an arms race. It's an arms race you cannot win, right? Because as soon as you do something or you find something, we used to put the New York Times front page in to turn it in and it would not find it as plagiarized. So like we've tested them, they don't work. So we always tell people, you just have to change, you have to redesign what you're doing so that there's just no possibility of them cheating or you make it a part of the learning. Because the arms race, you're not going to win. There's no way to detect it. There's no way to stop it. Anyone who's using syntax and grammar checks on MS Word is using AI to help improve their writing, right? Anyone who's using the generated ideas in Google Docs, you're using GPS telling you where to go. You're using Siri on your phone to get restaurant recommendations. You are using AI every day and you didn't even realize it's not you generating that stuff, it's AI generating it for you. So it's here to stay and we're just talking about that kind of arms race and I just like to kind of throw that out there for people to think about.
So this is, that's absolutely wonderful. It's not going away. This is a prompt that I created. I took a little course on ChatGPT, dealing with books and writing and thinking, ideas for writing books and all that. And I took this and I modified it to help me as an instructional technologist and designer, helping a faculty member. So it basically says you are working as an innovative, high-level instructional designer, right? You have high expertise, Bloom's taxonomy, universal design for learning, active learning, learning objectives, lots of different great traits on research. The task is I want to use all these powerful concepts to work on this input to identify a new course. And in my report, I want it to give me a course description, recommended target audience, recommended reading list, course goals, 8-week course outline. And so when I say this, it's going to give me a prompt saying course bot is ready. All right, well, let me just grab one out of the blue, right? One of my coworkers went to a course on bookbinding over the summer, right? So bookbinding. And it didn't go with my prompt. How sad. Telling me what bookbinding is. But let's try this again. There we go. Okay, now we're going. So this is, once you start experimenting and playing with it, think about the things that you do quite often and how you can build the right prompt in order to, kind of get to the next level. So there's so much more that you can do. A couple activities for your classroom for students. Honestly, I would bring this into your classroom, front and center, right? Don't be afraid of it. Drag it right in and make it a student. You're a student. Sit over there. So what you could do is you could put a prompt in, right? But float it out to your students first and say, okay, what do you think is X, Y, and Z, right? What do you think ChatGPT will say on this, right? Let's itemize it. Let's get on the board, write these things down, and then have ChatGPT respond to that same question, right? And say, why did ChatGPT say this? Are they correct in this? Right? Compose something, right? Compose something for your class as ChatGPT. Put it in your LMS and say, okay, use this as a discussion. Is it right? What's wrong? How could it be better, right? Make them start thinking critically about this. The activity, think, pair, share. I would extend it. I would say think, pair, get together with somebody, talk about it. ChatGPT. What does ChatGPT have to say about that? Pair again, discuss it a little further, share with the class. Okay? And see where you can go with that. Just idea generation. Yeah, it stopped it. It got tired of me. So, yeah, just all these different ideas to do this, and hopefully, gave you an opportunity to learn a little bit about that. So, I knew the hook was coming, so I saw it. If you are interested, I have some cards. Opportunity. There's a link on the back for a free book, right? Ebook, digital book. Now, naturally, you get on my list, but you can always opt out later. So you have that available to you. And then I have 2 books, and I'll let these folks figure out how to distribute it for the folks that are in person. And we'll go from there. But any last questions?
So we have a link for everyone online that will allow you to access Stan's book on this topic for free as well. I'm going to put it in the chat. I also wanted to make a just sort of final comment. Throughout our lives as educators, I mean, I used to teach, and we always have to help students manage and navigate a more and more complex world, right? And that's changed over the years what that meant. When the internet came out, we had to teach them how to evaluate sources for being credible or reliable or understanding junk online, or we've had to help them understand advertising, what's real, what's not, right? Like now, with filters and things, we have to help them, women with self-esteem and men with their understanding of themselves, the same stuff, right? Now it's about AI usage. We have to just let them understand what it is and that it may or may not be accurate, and they need to evaluate the information they're getting and not take it, for face value. I think it's just another step as educators in what we have to kind of help these young minds understand and navigate about a world that has this kind of access to technology. It's just a thought.
Oh, last one real quick. Draft an email to a student who has been consistently late and is risking of failing. And if it's too long, you can just say, rewrite it to 150 words or 100 words or whatever. But
Let's all take a minute and say thank you. Thank you so much for coming today.
Absolutely, it was great. Thank you.
It was very helpful to be able to see it live demoed, to interact with both you and ChatGPT. Kevin, my colleague, is getting the names, and we'll draw for the book in just a minute. I want you all to just keep in mind a few things. This was sponsored by the TLS team, which is the Teaching Learning Services team in IT. If you don't know already, we have our website, the its.uri.edu/TLS. That's where you can get all information. We have faculty highlights, news and changes to things like Brightspace coming up. We also have our training calendar at its.uri.edu/training. It has all the trainings coming up. We are continuing to update that. We are looking to have more guest speakers. We are also looking to start chat cafes where you can come and we can start talking more about chatting about using ed tech here at URI. Also, the ATL team and the TLS team are going to be coordinating a Come Explore workshop where we have a couple of hours where you would be with the ATL and the TLS team, and we would work with you with using ChatGPT. We're looking to put that together, hopefully within a month's time for you. The other thing is we have in-person hours. We're in the basement of the library with a service desk where one of the members of our team is there Monday through Thursday, 9 to 4. We also have online 2-hour spots, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You'd go to our training calendar to find that. If you have something, some of you have already utilized this. Say you wanted to know more about ChatGPT, which brought about this speaker series, but also if you want to explore something further and you don't see something trained, you can put in a request for that. And that's done with your service requests or tickets, if there's challenges you're facing, at uriprod.service-now.com. You can also go to the IT service desk. That's how you would submit a ticket, the same place in the library. So stay tuned. Next week, I'll be sending out a survey for you to fill out about today's speaking engagement. The other thing is midpoint of the semester, I'm looking to get feedback from faculty about how to set up trainings for next year. This is your chance to determine what tech trainings you want us to offer you for the coming year, and that'll help us do that. Thank you so much for coming.